All right, good morning, apprentices. Year 2. This is your teacher, Jason, speaking to you, coming from the inspection world. I have an inspection today at this single family dwelling. As you can see, I'm going to be doing an electrical inspection, and I thought this would be a good time to bring you all along to go over some of the code stuff we've been talking about recently. We've been in definitions, we've been in 200, we've been in 210, talking about branch circuits, all the different things. We've talked about some feeders, branch circuits, a whole bunch of different things. So let's just take a walk together and let's discuss some of this. We're going to start here at the service. Let's go out here. Here we have our meter socket. This is 4/0 SE cable coming into the bottom of an underground meter socket. We have 1/0 right here, ungrounded conductor. Goes to this lug, nice and secure. Here we have our neutral or grounded conductor. It's not grounded yet though, that's important. Okay, on this side it is not grounded yet. That's our neutral. And here you can see we have the red stripe continuous that we just read about in branch circuits 210. That's required. Nice and secure, 4/0 in the lugs. Now we're going to look down. Here we have a slip fitting. This allows the pipe, if the dirt settles, this will drop, and this will allow this section of pipe to drop inside of this slip fitting without ripping it out of the bottom of the meter socket. Okay, now over here, let's see what else we have. Here we have a number 6 bare piece of copper coming out. So this is our ground. This is where we're establishing our ground. It's coming over. It's acorn clamped to an 8-foot ground rod, and then 6 feet from there we should have another one, and we do. Another ground rod, 5/8 with an acorn clamp, and you can see that wire is continuous the whole way. It's not broken. So now we have a ground at that point. Let's come around to our panel here. Here we have our panel. So the other side, this is called USE cable. All right, it has 2 4/0 here and here, aluminum coming in. This is coming from the meter socket. They're attached to our main breaker. So this is a main breaker panel. Over here we have our neutral. It's not twisted well, should be twisted tighter than that. But here, down here, we have that piece of number 6 coming in. That went outside to our ground rods. It's coming in, it's going up. Here it comes in our panel. And right there, it is attached to our ground bar. Here we have a number 4. Where is that going? That's going down, and that's going to our footer ground, or also known as a UFER ground. And it is clamped on nice and tight. This bar goes down all the way into the footing and attaches to all the rebar throughout. Okay, so there we have 2 grounds established so far, which is good. What else do we have in here? Here we have our bus bar. So let's just follow this real quick. Let's see what's going to happen. So we're going to have, our power is going to come from that transformer. It's going to come through this conduit that's underground. It's going to come in and attach to these lugs. Neutral goes over and ties to our neutral lug here. Our 2 hots, one's going to come over to here. This one's going to feed this connection. This one is going to come across and feed this connection. When the meter goes in, that power is going to go across the meter down to this connection point here and here, and it's going to tie through and go follow our USE cable in through the house, and then it's going to come around, it's going to go into here, and it's going to hit our main breaker. This is our first point of overcurrent protection with a disconnect. So this is where we must bond or ground our neutral. This is the first place where this becomes a grounded neutral. So as you can see, our neutral comes in here, and you see this green screw right here? That is our bonding jumper. That is our bonding screw. That screws directly into the metal housing of the panel, and these grounds are also screwed into the metal housing of the panel. So these grounds are attached to the panel. This is attached to the panel. So this is how they're grounding their neutrals at this location. This is the only place that will happen. Now, after our power comes in and goes to these two lugs, it goes through the breaker and comes up to each one of these bolts right here. Okay, boom, boom. That feeds these bus bars that go all the way up. So in this situation, we would have two phases, A phase, B phase, or vice versa. And as you can see, they step around each other. So if you were to plug a double pole breaker in, one would be on this phase, the other side would be attached to this phase. Okay? Now this is a service conductor coming to here. And then from here we have feeders. The bus bars act as feeders, sending the power to our breakers. Then when it leaves our overcurrent protective device, which is this breaker, it goes from one overcurrent protective device, our main breaker, to the next one, so that's a feeder, okay? When it leaves here and goes to a device, let's say we follow this piece of 12 gauge, goes here. Now this right there is a branch circuit, okay? It does not go to another overcurrent protective device. All right, so that's our service in a nutshell right there. There's our home runs, or most of those are branch circuits, unless they go to another overcurrent protective device. Coming in, and they'll land on breakers, okay? Now the first thing you'll notice is that there's a wire coming out, and we're going across here, and it feeds this receptacle in the garage. As we just read in 210 branch circuits yesterday, that is required to have at least one receptacle in here for each bay of this garage. You can see we only have one. And it has to be 12 gauge 20 amp. And that is 12 gauge 20 amp NM cable. I don't think I can read that to you guys. You're not going to be able to see that too well, because this one's stamped. It's not printed on. Next thing I want to show you, while we're in this location, you see this wire coming down right here? That's a 14 gauge wire. And the way they had to drill to get around this corner, they had to get too close to the face of this stud. And by too close, I mean within 1.25 inches. As soon as now here they're okay. They're back more than 1.25 inches here. But because of the angle they had to drill, they're very close to this corner, so what did they do? They protected it with nail plates, and that's per NEC code. They had to do this, okay? They also protected them up there. You'll see nail plates everywhere. All right, let's keep moving here. What else do we have? That circuit, that's coming up. It's going to our garage door opener. So now, if they put a GFCI here, that will be GFCI protected as required. All of these must be, but we'll check that at final inspection. What do we have here? We have a 14 gauge GFCI weatherproof in the garage. Wasn't that interesting? I think we'll have to put a correction on that. Yep, okay, not a problem. Let's see, what else do we have? Here's our switch box. Here, let's do, the other day we were talking about conductor fill, right? Let's do that right here. Let's look in the back of this box if we can. What's it say there? You guys see that? 32.5 cubic inch box. Now we can tell just by looking at it that this one isn't filled, right? There's not that many wires in it. But let's count them up, just for fun here. What do we got? We have a 2-wire, we have a 3-wire, and then down here in the bottom, get out of the way, we have a 2-wire. So it's very simple to count this up. we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down here we're going to have 6 and 7. Okay, so right there we have 6 conductors. Then we count our grounds. All grounds count as 1. Right? Hopefully you guys remember that. So now we're at 8. And then the easiest way to do this is then to count each mounting hole. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 of those. So now we're at 12. And because the multiplier for 14 gauge wire, you can tell by the white sheathing here, and this one's actually printed on there, NM cable, 14 gauge with ground. Okay, so the multiplier for 14 gauge is 2. So we're at 12, we double that because our multiplier is 2, and we're only at 24 cubic inches, well within the range of what this box is meant to hold, which is up to 32.5. Okay, does that make sense? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All the grounds are 1, so that's 8. 9, 10, 11, 12, double it, 24. We just calculated the box fill for this 2-gang box. Okay, and the max was 32.5. So they are well within their range. And by the way, I've absolutely never recorded a video before in my life. So if this thing's flying all over the place and you're not getting to see half of what I'm talking about, I apologize. Now we're going to walk out the front door. As we talked about, code, branch circuits, dwelling. Somewhere out the front of this house, we have to have what? We have to have a receptacle, outside receptacle. Right there's one out the front. Already done. Good. Now we also have a man door, main entry door. So what do we need? We need a light. We have a light. Code compliant. Perfect. Now we're walking into what? What are we going to call this? Is this a foyer? Is it a hallway? I don't know. I'd have to read the prints, but either way, they have a receptacle, right? So there's really nothing to worry about. No matter what it is, they put a receptacle in it. Okay? So let's turn left here. Now we're in the kitchen. This is going to be our kitchen. This little area right here is our dining room. Over there's some sort of living room, I think. So let's walk through the kitchen real quick. What do we have? We have a single pole, S1, single pole switch, right there. So that's going to be feeding our light up here. Very good. Here we have a GFI. You can see that. Now once again, in every kitchen, you can see these outlets are countertop height, right? As we talked about yesterday, and we read in branch circuits, you have to have 2 circuits feeding the countertop, and they must be GFI protected in all locations. So this most likely is our first one. First circuit, okay, GFI will be here, or it starts here. Then it goes up and over, comes down. Looks like it's our refrigerator only. So that's a dedicated circuit. Yep. Going straight back to the panel. So that's where our fridge is going to be. Perfectly legal there. Now we're going to come around. This looks like some sort of pantry or closet. All right, then we must have a countertop here. So here's our next circuit. Most likely. Right there. Then it's going to feed out. Come over. Bypasses this one, so it must be on a separate circuit. Comes to here, goes around, comes to here. Keeps coming around, goes down. Looks like we're going to have a dishwasher, garbage disposal receptacles. Okay. And then we have another outlet on the outside of the wall. That's legal, even though that's coming off of our small appliance circuit from the countertop, because this space is also small appliance because it's dining room, okay? Or breakfast nook, or eat at countertop. All right. So let's check our spacing. What did we talk about yesterday? Spacing in the kitchen is what? 2 foot, 4 foot, right? So here they've laid out the range. That line is the end of our range. So within 2 foot of that line, I need a receptacle. There we go. And then within 4 foot of this one, I need another receptacle. There we go. All right, makes sense? Here, this side of the range, within 2 foot, boom, receptacle. Within 4 foot, boom, receptacle.